Hi everybody, this is Erica with our first virtual Dryland. I hope that everyone is doing well and is ready for a little bit of introduction to the way that we're going to be doing this Dryland. This video will be used for you to follow along with during the week, and then at the end of the week we're going to have a live all together group Dryland, so that way you'll be familiarized with the workout and I'll be able to actually help you as opposed to trying to figure it out live. So this is the introduction, the why, the what, and the when of Dryland. The when is any time that you have enough time. Even if you can't get all your Dryland in at once, doing it at all throughout the day is acceptable. Morning, evening, middle of the day, before practice, after practice. As long as you're doing it, that's the most important thing. The next thing is, what is Dryland? Dryland is everything that's not in the pool. So that means you can utilize every single motion that you do as Dryland. Walking, you're focusing on different muscles. Skiing, running, all of these things can be considered cross-training, and cross-training benefits swimming. Swimming benefits other sports, other activities, so it's a really nice win-win, especially if you are intentional or purposeful about it. So going out and shoveling your driveway, that's Dryland as long as you're doing it carefully with your body in mind and your form. So we do Dryland to cross-train and to prevent injury. Preventing injury is a really important thing in swimming because we put our body in a lot of unstable positions. Being extended out like this with a lot of weight behind it, if you do it wrong, that's a fairly small joint that can't take too much stress. It's one of the reasons a lot of swimmers get shoulder injuries. So we try to prevent injury with Dryland. That being said, you can also use Dryland to help heal from injury. That's part of rehabilitation, physical therapy. We want to get you guys to not have to need physical therapy, so we're going to do Dryland. Another reason that we do Dryland is to develop strength and power. We can't always get the same strength building or power in the water as we do on land. For example, jumping off the wall on a flip turn is very different than jumping off the ground on land. So we can develop other muscles and muscle groups that we might not get to work as much in the pool. And if we can't get pool access, it's very good to be able to work both the muscles we need to swim and the muscles that support swimming. And the one other thing is that Dryland is supplemental. It can't necessarily replace the pool, but it can help a lot. So, like I said, we all know that getting to the pool is not always the easiest thing, especially during a pandemic when we don't know if we have practice or not. But to supplement it in, you take it as an addition, or you try to use it as much as possible, however you can. The most important thing about Dryland here is that you have enough space. You need space to spread your arms, space to be able to comfortably lie down. This is my first time doing this on video, so hopefully you guys will be able to see me correctly if I do any floor workouts. I'm wearing socks. You don't need to be. It's up to you. Generally speaking, wearing sneakers makes an exercise a little bit easier. There's less slippage. It depends on your floor in your house. Barefoot, socks, shoes. I do recommend shoes, but again, that's on you. Well, the one thing that not wearing shoes does is helps you be able to see your toe point, and that is very important. And that brings us to the next thing of Dryland, which is form. I mentioned purpose and intent. Form is a huge part of that. So I am going to perpetually stress quality over quantity. I want you to do better, not more. So if you, during any time of these exercises, find that you can't keep going, that you're shaking or something hurts, don't keep going. If you're going to do it wrong, stop, readjust, assess why it's hurting. Maybe your wrist is weird, your shoulder's in the wrong place, or right now you just aren't comfortable doing that. Don't keep doing it. Form matters, and if you are compromising your form, that is when people get injured. So we're going to try to avoid that. So do better, not more. If you can't do 10 perfect ones, do 8 perfect ones. It's on you to know what you're capable of doing. You're always capable of doing more. However, doing it better is the most important part. So, another thing that we're going to mention before we start doing some exercises is repetitions, repeats, times. These are all things that during our actual Dryland, we'll have reps. You're going to have 8 reps, and you're going to repeat that 2 times. You're going to do 8 crunches twice. Or we'll go for a time. You're going to do an exercise, however many you're comfortable doing, within 30 seconds. That's another way of doing it, the same way that we can sometimes go by time in the pool, or you go by laps. So repeats, repetitions, length, and there's continuous. That just means we keep going. So one of the things that we will be doing is we'll be doing core. If I say this is continuous, that means you don't put your feet down, you keep going into the next thing. So just so you know, and again, I said stop when you're not comfortable. By not comfortable, I mean if you're hurting. Not comfortable can also be, struggling and working hard. So I'm going to demonstrate a couple of the more utilized exercises, which we're all fairly familiar with, but just to make sure that we're all on the same page. And one of those is dynamic stretching. We'll go over that in a second. The other one is lunges, squats, planks, and we'll go over some core crunching, etc. positions. So dynamic. Dynamic means in motion versus static. Static is holding. So dynamic is moving, static is stationary. Static is a plank, a wall sit, holding something without moving for a long time, a leg lift. Dynamic is moving. So we like to start out every time you're going to do exercise or workout, even before, going outside, dynamic warm up. That is moving, and so we'll just go through it a little bit. This is sort of just a demonstration for you to get familiarized with, so that way it's usually a little bit longer. So warming up usually takes at least 5 minutes. You want your heart rate to be generally over 90. You want your face to be a little warm, a little red, and you want to feel warm. So I'm starting out with arm swings. My thumbs are pointing up to the ceiling. My shoulder is not clicking. If it was clicking, you do less. So say your shoulder's clicking, do a little bit of less. Go to your own range of motion. Range of motion is as far as you're comfortable. Everybody's range of motion is different. So we did some arm swings back and forth. You notice how I'm switching above and below. Arms out to the side, and we're going to do some twists. This will help warm up your back and your hips and your arms and shoulders. So we're doing this just for a little bit and opening up your legs. Notice my feet are nice and far apart, and we're going to hinge at the hips, still twisting, nice and easy. You notice how I'm not straining and I'm not flopping all over the place. Twist, twist. My legs are still straight, but as I open up a little bit, I start bending, opposite hand to opposite leg, and this will be warming up all of that muscles in through the inner thigh, down through your calf, and then we do a little bit of hold. This is a static hold. You look up to the ceiling for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We're going to do 1 and 2, other side, and do a couple more, nice and even. And now we're going to just hands on your knees, side to side, a little bit more, a little bit further. Switch which leg has all the weight, and then stand up, hands behind our back. We're going to lean down nice and easy, stretch, lower your arms a little bit, raise them up again, go a little bit lower, lean side, 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 side. Nice big breath in, stand up. So we're going to do the legs, and so having enough space is very important in front of and behind, and having something solid that you can hold on to. We always want to do the outside leg, so that means the one that's holding onto the wall is not moving. Forward and back, as far as you're comfortable. Forward and back, you go as high as you feel is stretching and getting warm. And we're doing about 8 to 10 repeats. As you do more repeats, repetitions, you will notice your leg goes higher. So this just loosens up our back and our hip and the rest of our leg. All right, we do forward and back on that side, and forward and back on this side. Couple more times. You can keep your arm out to the side if you'd like. That'll just engage your core a little bit more, or you don't have to. The last thing we're doing for some dynamic stretching, both hands on the wall or the sable structure, and you're going to sweep out and across. One leg out to the side and across. Back and forth. Again, you don't need to go too high. You go as high as you're comfortable. As you get more warmed up, you will go higher. So the point of this is not to kick as high as you can, just to get that limb moving a little bit. That was about 8. Other side. It's better to not look down. It's better to look at your hands. That way you're not putting tension on your neck and spine. All right. So that is one of the things that we will be doing, you should be doing, at your home before we get into the workout. So I mentioned a couple of the staple things, such as lunges. So we all know how to do lunges, but sometimes it's good to have a little refreshing reminder that a lunge is a big step. So it doesn't just matter if you're doing this, bending your knees. You're going to do a big step and drop that bottom knee. You can't see my knee. Shift. Big step. Drop that bottom knee. If you're dropping your knee straight down, that back leg straight down, you're going to have a correct and non-damaging lunge every time. Notice that this knee is not tilting forward and it's not super open. This is Jaya. She wants to do some stretching with us too. So you want to be at right angles for any time that you're lunging. You don't have to drop down to the floor each time, but you don't have to touch the floor each time, but you want to drop straight down through that. So when we lunge, try to have nice big steps. Really think of it as a lunge, because that will always put you, again, in the right position to not hurt yourself. We don't want to put stress on our knees. We don't want to put stress on our knees. Excuse me, Jaya. Jaya really wants to play and do exercise with us too. She hasn't gotten on her run yet. Excuse me. Okay, so those are lunges. You can keep your hands on your hips. You can keep your hands across your chest. You can keep your hands on your head. Don't press on your legs. You're not helping anybody else out. Excuse me. So we're going to do a few lunges just for you to get familiarized with this. Jaya's going to get in my way during this because she really wants to play. So nice big lunges. We're going to do 4 on each side. 1, 2, and you step back. 3, and 4. Again, notice that my knee is not at an acute angle. It's not super narrow. It's nice and right angled. That was the right side, then the left side. Again, you can keep your hands anywhere. I personally like down here. Sometimes it's good to have your hands on your heads, and there are a variety of ways to do lunges with your arms out, with rotations, etc. We are just doing a regular lunge. Notice I'm not walking with this. A walking lunge is when you move. This is out and then back. So you have to push off the ground a little bit. So you're using more than just one muscle. You have to engage a little bit more in order to get back to the standing position. So those are lunges, and lunges are very similar to squats. They engage a fair amount of similar muscles, but squats can be done a lot of different ways. The main way that we're going to do squats is knees are right about shoulder width apart, and excuse me, puppy. Knees are shoulder width apart. My feet are pointing mostly straight. There we are. You can keep your hands on your chest, hands on your head. You don't want to be bending. You don't want to be leaning. Squatting down. If you've gone into the woods and gone to the bathroom, we've all had to squat. But you really want to make sure you're sticking your butt out and getting those knees bent. That is a squat. That's a nice regular squat. You go down a couple times, you go back up. Notice that I'm not leaning like this. My butt's not doing anything. My knees are bent, so I'm nice and secure. So if I was in this position and someone tried to push me, they couldn't. That's what you want to be thinking of when you do these squats. You squat down, you push up. That's a regular squat where your feet are pointing towards the front. We can also do squats out to the side. If you're really wide, that'll be a sumo squat. Down to the middle, your knees want to be pointing out. That is one that we don't need to do all the time because it works muscles out on the sides, so we don't need to make too strong. There's also a narrow squat in which your feet are close together. You're not going to be able to sit down as far. It's just not really that possible. This is also used in yoga as a chair pose, you may have heard. Squatting down and back up. Keeping your hands on your chest helps because that way you don't have any leaning and keep your face forward. Again, narrow squats and wide squats, we don't use them as much, but they're good to know. So we've talked about a few different, squats, lunges, and then there's explosive. We mentioned creating power and strength with Dryland. That includes jumping. Jumping is something that swimmers all need help with. We jump off the walls, we jump off the block. We're jumping a lot, but it's in water, so it has that resistance. So getting good at doing it on land will help translate to being better in the water. So, jump squats. Go down, back up. You want to try to land, not thudding. So the way that I would try to recommend it is that you want to jump like a ninja. You want to jump really high, you want to jump with a lot of force, you want to land kind of quietly. So, jump squats, you go down, your arms extend back up, you land. You're landing in this position, so you're back down here. You can repeat it a bunch of times. I would like to see you guys getting off the ground. You don't need to get off the ground high, but you need to be getting off the ground. Jai is an excellent jumper, so she could give some pointers if she knew how to speak English. Excuse me. So, jump squats are a very important thing. Another way, I mentioned lunges. Lunge jumps are another thing that we will be doing. Not yet, but I will demonstrate just so that way you guys have an idea of what I'm talking about, which is you start out in a lunge position, and this is a pulse where you kind of just pulse in the same area without too much movement. But lunge jumps is when you lunge and you switch. Another name for them is lunge switchers. So, excuse me. Watch out. So, lunge switchers, lunge jumps, switch, switch, switch. Keep your hands out to the sides. Balance. Balance is another part of Dryland. So when we do stabilizing things, static holding things, stabilizing, balance, all of these words are Dryland words. You will become more familiar with them as I do Dryland with you guys, but these are all things to keep in mind when we're talking about quality. So we want quality, we want nice balance, we want even. You don't want to be strong on one side and weak on the other. That's one of the reasons we breathe to both sides in freestyle. So, what else? So we talked about lunges, squats, and now some static stuff, which is holding. Planks, as you all know, are one of our favorite things because it really helps work your whole body. You don't just work your arms, you don't just isolate your legs, you have to engage your whole body. So when we're doing planks, thinking about being in the water and being in streamline position, your arms are tight, your core is tight, your legs are tight. Things are all engaged. You want to be fully engaged during your planks and during everything else, but planks is a really good place to notice if your hips are dropping or if your shoulders are rounding. So, planks have a lot of variation as well, but there's the straightforward plank, which is push-up plank. Push-up plank is like it looks like in the form of a push-up position. Excuse me. And the other thing that we are going to do is elbow plank. Elbow planks are down here, and notice that my head is not looking forward, my hips are not dropping, and my body position maintains the same. My butt's not sticking up in the air, as an exercise, and my hips are not dropping. Excuse me. Hold on 1 second. Okay, so I was mentioning we have a couple of plank variations, and that includes, the variations include lifting your arms or legs. So, lifting your arm. When you lift your leg up, you don't need to lift all the way, you just need to lift up off of the ground. Part of the important thing is keeping, again, your form. Other leg. Sometimes we will add in things like mountain climbers, or, which is, back and forth, you tap in the front, or spiders. So you out to the side, and again, all of these things we will go over, and the more you do them, the easier they get. At the end of this, I will put up a list of some Dryland exercises for you guys to do on your own. This first week, all we're going to do is 2 sets of 10 for everything. Again, you don't need to do it all consecutively throughout the day, but get familiar with these. Get comfortable doing Dryland in your space. And if you're able to get to the pool, try to consider what your Dryland is doing for you in the water and what your swimming can do for your Dryland. I hope that you guys have a great weekend and enjoy the snow. I'll see you soon.